Yes.
Right.
That's
My
bucket
mother
list.
is out of this world. Yeah.
It was a good trip.
We are live.
All right. It's 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock somewhere.
Finally caught up with us.
Good evening, everyone. It's 5 o'clock, September 27th, 2022. It's time to begin our monthly meeting of the Glasgow Board of Directors for the Electric Plant Board. At this time, I'll call the meeting to order. First item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Motion.
Have a motion by Witcher,
Second.
second by Stevens. Is there any discussion or questions? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed, say no. Okay. Motion passes. Item 2 is the minutes of the previous meeting. Hopefully everybody's had a little chance to look them over. Everything seems to be in order as far as I'm concerned. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting as presented.
Make a motion.
Do I have a motion? I have a motion by Jones.
Second.
Okay, second by Stevens. Is there any discussion on this? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. Okay. Motion passes. Number 3 is consider the approval of the SRS rate, which I had asked that this one be tabled to this month. There was a few questions and concerns I had over this. I've talked with Dave some, and my concern was I thought, well, if in a residential situation, if it's one customer, even though they have 2 meters, I was hoping they could, there would not be any need for a second meter fee, and or reduce it. So I've talked to Dave, and do you want to say anything on this matter?
Yeah, so I think, what we went through a process with TVA as we put this rate together, and as you and I discussed, I think that a good plan of action to consider is to really put it on the books as presented last month with the $29 customer charge, which is a reduction from 42 as a commercial customer. So these second meters at a residential, like for a garage, are considered commercial meters. And so what we've seen a little bit through the TVA territory is they've created this SRS rate that's for a second meter or a supplemental service at a residential customer. And the rate making work that TVA went through, and it came up with that $29 a month service charge, which is a $13 reduction from what those customers are paying now. And then we would have the kilowatt hour charge the same as the residential rate. And so what I would propose that we do is get this rate, on the books as presented. See how many customers we really have that are going to adopt it as we work through the next few months. And then when we do a future rate review and adjustment, look at making a change to it then that might adopt some of the ideas that Glenn was thinking, because there's reasons that makes some sense, but there's also, there's reasons to have it similar to what it is now. So that's just a discussion I think that we can definitely have. But I'd like to see us get it on the books, and then we can start to see how many customers really adopt it, so we know what we're working with too. So.
Do they get separate bills too, or is it all on one bill?
They get separate bills.
They're separate
One
bills.
bill.
Yeah.
And this is an improvement. It's $13 improvement, in favor of the customer. So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And then we can, like I said, maybe work towards lowering that a little bit in the future.
Yep.
Okay. Is there anything anybody wants to add to that? Okay. So at this time, I will make a motion to approve the addition of the SRS rate to the Electric Plant Board standard electric rate service.
I'll second.
So that's the first, I guess.
Oh, you said you were making the motion.
Oh, I did, okay. I'm sorry about that.
Which I think,
It's fine, you can
It's
make the
fine.
motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion. Pritchard motion, and then Witcher seconded that. So is there any other discussion or questions? Okay,
Does
if
it,
not,
does it need to have an effective date?
Dave, if you want an effective date,
well, it'll be as soon as we can. It may be November 1 at this point, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know if they need one in there.
you wanna, yeah, why don't you, if you can, include in your motion, you know, I guess, I don't know if we have an effective date. I think they're concerned about the books or, you know, as soon as possible, or.
I would
I'm not
say
sure
as
how
soon
it
as
would work for
possible.
Melanie.
We're going to shoot for November 1st.
okay.
Oh,
Do you want us to just remake another motion in on that, just
you can
with that
just
wording?
amend your motion, I guess.
Okay.
If you, I mean, just restate your motion.
Okay. At this,
You want it effective?
Doesn't have to be a certain date.
November 1st,
Yeah.
somewhere on there.
Just say,
Yeah.
Or
As of
soon,
November
or
1st
soon.
as soon as
Okay.
possible, or what, yeah.
So that, would that be, okay. Uh,
Or no later than.
Yeah, you could say no later than.
Yeah, just say no later than.
First, and then,
December 1st.
yeah.
No
that
later
should
than
be
December
fine.
1st.
Okay, sure.
Okay, at this time then, I'm going to amend my motion and enter a motion to approve the addition of the SRS rate to the electric plant board's standard electric rate service no later than December the 1st of this year. So I'll make a motion. Do I have a second on that?
My second.
Okay, Witcher, second. All righty. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, say no. All right, motion passes. Okay, number 4. Consider approval of $2.5 million to rebuild the Glasgow Electric Plant Board's broadband network Phase 1.
Yeah, so we've been doing a lot of work over the last several months to really take a look at improving our broadband network and preparing it for really what is the future of broadband, and that's fiber optic service all the way to the home. We continue to also improve and expand our existing HFC network, but that network is limited by 100 megabits downstream and 20 megabits upstream, whereas the future of fiber optic delivery will be speeds of up to 10 gigabytes at this point to the home. There's really no devices that can handle those speeds right now, but 1 gigabyte symmetrical is definitely a reality, and that's where we would really be starting out with our top offering out of the gate, and on up from there. But so it's a major project. It's basically a major rebuild of our network, and in total, we forecast that the rebuild over 4 years would be in the neighborhood of $11.5 million roughly. What we're looking to do right now is get started with Phase 1. It's really can be viewed as almost from a maintenance standpoint of our existing network. It's a rebuild, but in order for us to stay in the broadband business, we need to continue to expand our capability with speeds. You see a lot of two-way communications that became very evident during COVID. Streaming content is continuing to increase with Amazon Prime is carrying Thursday night football games right now. Next season they're going to be carrying the NFL ticket, which is just going to create demands on the system. You've got virtual reality and augmented reality, which those are sort of immersion in the digital world. Things that a lot of us don't really even understand what's going to happen yet or where it's going, but that's that's just going to continue. The demand on the bandwidth is going to continue to expand, and even today, we have a lot of gamers in Glasgow as well as, of course, across the world that are looking for high-speed two-way communications, and they'll pay for it. So it's really the next phase of the EPB being in the broadband business. So what we're looking for to start Phase 1 is $2.5 million, and what that is in a general breakdown is about $1.9 million for engineering and construction of this first phase, $300,000 for new additional equipment in the head end, and then $300,000 roughly for customer activation, meaning that with this $2.5 million, we're looking to pass up to 1,500 homes, connect up to 1,000 customers in this first phase. And that money would be earmarked to do that complete project from head end to the customer. So with that, I think I would open up to any questions that you have. I included in your packet a summary of the cash flow for the project. If you look at where we have, so this is another thing to point out is we would be doing this all with internal cash, and internal cash that's already earmarked or dedicated to the broadband side, the cable and internet side. It's money that's there that's specific to our broadband. It doesn't have anything to do with the electric side of the house. So right now our cash position in the broadband side is roughly $4.9 million. When you look at getting this project completed by the end of fiscal year 2023, with the net income we would have this current year, looking at other capital expenditures that we have for the broadband network, like our loan payments for the Kentucky Infrastructure Authority. There is a loan between the electric side and the broadband side right now that broadband's paying on. We also are going to continue to maintain our HFC network, so you can see there's a cash allowance for continuing to have capital expenditures on the hybrid fiber coax. And then we have the $2.5 million that we're looking to invest in this first phase of the new build. So we would, at the end of 2023, we would still have $4.2 million in the bank for broadband cash. So we're in a solid position. You know, this is the time to really take this step so that the EPB can continue to be a leader for broadband service in the city of Glasgow. So I guess with that, I would turn it over to any questions. And just to expand a little bit further, you know, our initial thought is we're going to look at starting this project, this first phase, in what I would say is the southwest side of the city. Right, it's right outside our back door here. You know, our head end's right here. It just worked that way, and we haven't really considered where phases 2 through 4 really will be yet. But phase 1 is right here in our backyard of the plant board.
I know we talked about it before, but what about marketing, the marketing piece to this? How do we market this? You know, how do we reach out to these communities where they know that this is coming and then when this is coming? And have we thought that far ahead and say, hey, you guys are scheduled for, you know, if this does get approved? And, you know, have we thought about that piece of communication?
It's going to be one of the keys to being successful with this is going to be to retain our existing customer base, and then of course once it's built, maintain that customer base and add to it. And so that's one of the discussions. We have a group that's going to work on once we get to this point where we're ready to roll with it. There's still a lot of engineering that needs to be done, but along with that, and we can talk about it at future board meetings, will be really the plan to market it to the community. You know, that's not a step that's been fully developed yet, but it's an important step.
Communications there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that talking about it here in this forum initially is that starting to get that word out. Mm-hmm. You know, and then once we've been talking about it internally for a long time, but not saying too much about it externally. Yeah. If it's a reality, it gets approved, then we'll really start that conversation externally and get people excited about it.
These updates will make it faster for our customers, correct? Yeah. And a lot of the problems that we saw during the COVID timeframe, where you had large amounts of people who were home and children doing their work at once in different neighborhoods, it was put a stress on the broadband. This will help. Yeah. Make it faster. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's, you know, Josh, if you don't mind me putting you on the spot, I was not here at that point, but Josh saw everything going firsthand when everyone
So
went
the
home.
really interesting thing when COVID hit, of course, nobody was expecting it, and all of these customers basically got sent to work from home that had never had to do that. So our call volume back there's 4 of us that really handle the internet calls. our call volume went up by about, I think it was 300%. And we were sitting back praying that nothing broke, because we know all of a sudden all these people are relying on this for communication. You're stuck at home. It's your livelihood. It's the only way these kids can do schoolwork and everything. When COVID had hit, I kind of got ahead of the curve and bought some more. The way it works with speed is you have so many customers that share a slot of bandwidth. I bought enough slots of bandwidth to be able to literally peg each of our groups of customers. So basically it consisted of me sitting back in the back waiting to see one getting kind of saturated, turning those up. And then some of them, the guys, we had to do work orders, our engineering department had to do work orders to split these up. It really put a tax on the network. And at a certain point, it's not just speed, it's also the reliability. When you start dealing with low latency type of things where such as voice, you'd be amazed how many people in this community are working from home on voice. They're doing things like places I've never heard of. We've got people here that work for Apple, doing Apple support. I mean, we've got them, it's amazing. And it's kind of a cool thing coming into the community, because it's another job source for people that may not typically be in a situation where they can get out and work. So the whole goal of this, it's more reliable. It is insanely faster. Like we will be able to offer the type of speeds that geeks like me dream of. I mean, it should future-proof us for.
And I think one of the questions that Bo basically is asking is, right now we have nodes where customers are coming into the node. This is a more direct.
So if you want to talk about the logistics, how it actually works. Right now you have we run what is called an HFC plant. It's hybrid fiber coax, okay? Hybrid fiber coax, I can't say it. You've got fiber optics. We've got fiber optics now, and they go so deep. And then it converts it to the HFC stuff that actually powers your house, the cable lines that feed your house. Some of our nodes are upwards of, let's say, 250 customers. This busts it down where we will be feeding 32 customers off of one thing, sharing that same amount of sharing literally probably 15 times more bandwidth between those 32 customers than we are sharing between a group of 250 right now.
Absolutely.
And the big thing is, to me, it's also the stability and the low latency that gives more things like the streaming video and stuff. I mean, Disney Plus services like that come out. Disney Plus can put a hurting on your internet connection. I mean, you got a 100 meg internet connection, Disney Plus can eat a third of it easily. So.
Okay. Thanks. Other questions?
Any idea if this passes, when this rebuild would start?
Well, it would be, tomorrow we would be talking with the engineering firm that we intend to use, that we've already had those conversations to get them in place. And then it would be as quickly as we can get it rolling. You know, there will be some lead times with equipment or with fiber optic cable, but we're in pretty good, we think we're going to be in pretty good shape there. So, labor and materials are always so as fast as, I think the engineering should take probably 2 to 3 months to get where we can get started. And then the goal is to have all of these customers passed and be ready to turn up by, mid to late summer next year. So the first phase of customers, that is.
And each phase would be an annual phase.
Yeah,
This would be annually
so
phase 1, annually phase 2.
Some of the way I see this working is this first phase is modest, and it allows us to see how it's going. That the plan do check adjust cycle in terms of really managing a project. And so as we get into it, we'll start to say, okay, at some point we'll be ready to start talking about phase 2. Like once the engineering for phase 1 is done and we get rolling on phase 1, okay, now we're ready to start the engineering on phase 2.
Yeah.
And at that point we'd be coming back to the board. Of course, you'll be updated every month, but we'll come back specifically and say, here's how we're rolling with phase 1. We'd like to start phase 2. And here's what the plan is. So I would, even though we're saying phase 1, phase 2 would be, in my mind, immediately following on the heels of phase 2.
Okay.
But sort of would be a year-by-year thing, realistically, just from the time it would take to actually build. I think it would work itself out in somewhat neatly into 12-month increments or so, you know. Any other questions? Thoughts?
I know this is something that we've split into, two at a time and talked a lot with Dave over. This is nothing that we've just decided tonight. This is something we've put a lot of thought into and
I appreciate
into our decision.
Yeah, I appreciate the time that everyone's taken to learn about it and think about it. It's important, I think, to the city of Glasgow too.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I do too. I think it's important, time to move forward.
yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, at this time, then I'll entertain a motion to approve the $2.5 million for Phase 1 of the Electric Plant Board's broadband network rebuild.
Motion.
Have a motion by Witcher,
I second that.
have a second by Jones. I think I'm gonna do a roll call vote on this one. This is a pretty big one.
Okay.
I'll read the question and then call each person by name, and you can answer yes or no. Do you approve the $2.5 million for Phase 1 of the Electric Plant Board's broadband network rebuild? Stevens?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Witcher?
Yes.
Pritchard votes yes. So the motion passes.
Okay. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Okay. Number 5 is the superintendent's report. So Dave, back at you again.
All right, so the first item on the superintendent reports, as usual, is the fuel cost adjustment. So we saw a big drop in the September fuel cost adjustment from, I think, 4.8 cents in August down to 3 cents in September. October is back up slightly. It's close to roughly 3.2 cents, 3.175 cents for October. But we are seeing really a stabilization in that fuel cost adjustment. I would say that it's going to hold, it looks like it should hold steady, barring any negative surprises that, if it's a surprise, there's no way of knowing what that surprise is, obviously, but barring any unforeseen circumstances, it should hover around 3 through the winter months and then start to drop again in the spring and be back down in that 2.5 cents range, it looks like. So, but that's, it's not great that it's going up slightly, but at least we're down from that shock of the 4.8 cents back in August. The next item on the agenda, or on the superintendent reports, is the outage reports. And there too, we've got some good news. We really the same number of outages this August as last August, but when we take out scheduled outages, we actually had 14 fewer outages in August of this year versus July of this year. So in June, July, we're just crazy with animal outages and trees and lots of different things seem to be going on. But in August, when you take scheduled outages out, we really had 14 outages, which is down pretty significantly. And as I've talked about in each meeting, we're doing a cycle trimming on our distribution network with trees, and that, I think right around this time next year we'll really start to see the results of that. This just started in May roughly, and it's going to take a while for that to take hold, but our plan is to do this cycle trimming, and really every 4 to 6 years the entire city, the entire electric grid for the city of Glasgow will have been cleared of trees. So kind of going through that quickly, but if you look at the August trouble causes, there was 3 animal varmint outages, and the other is the big category. That 7 of those 9 others were scheduled. We had 4 unknown, 1 equipment, and then 3 were weather related. So, and just 1 tree outage for August. Any questions on that? And then the last item under superintendent's reports is really a cybersecurity update. So for a couple of audits now, the financial auditor recommended that we do a cybersecurity audit. And finally, now, I think it was probably right around 9 months ago, we really started to dig into it, and it's been on Josh's plate. So I'll turn it over to Josh to give an update on where we're at with it. We've made a lot of good progress with it.
So, aren't y'all glad you get to hear from me again?
Yeah.
So, as you all know, like, I don't know if you guys have ever been here when the auditors have presented, Marlin may have. Basically, every year they put on our to-do list that we need to have a cybersecurity audit. That's typically got around a $40,000 price tag, which is always fun. So this year, or I think it was last October-ish, when they did the presentation, the board moved, said, hey, we need to go ahead and get this done. So I started reaching out to places in order to figure out, get the most bang for the buck, to figure out how to do this. Well, I've never been through a cybersecurity audit before. I understand cybersecurity, but I don't understand the audit, so that's really fun. One of the big things that they want you to have, a lot of this stuff is based on documentation. They want documentations based on every process, forms filled out for, like, okay, Josh adds, you gotta think, we're a small little company here, you've got me and you got 20 people that I take care of, but they're used to working on a much larger scale where, okay, I've gotta have a form filled out where Jim Bob wants to create a user account, all the permissions, gotta have it signed off by their supervisor stuff. This is just the type of things I've never been used to. So I started looking into it and started getting quotes, and basically they told me, we really can't do an audit without you having all this documentation, because what you're going to do, you're going to pay us $40,000 to come in and tell us that I can't do the audit, and then you're going to have to pay us $40,000 again once you get the documentation. So about the time that the Russians were nice enough to attack the Ukraine, everybody started hearing cyber war, infrastructure, grid's going to be attacked. So one of the cool things that did was it opened us up to a lot of Department of Homeland Security resources, and I'm on a lot of mailing lists, and we made friends with the Department of Homeland Security. Critical infrastructure is nice. So I started reaching out to them, and they say, hey, you're critical infrastructure. We will do all these services for you for free. Free's good. So I put us in the queue to get these two services done. Okay, so a cybersecurity audit is based on 2 points. First, it is a self-assessment audit. Basically, a dude came in here and sat with me for 6 hours and asked me questions. That was interesting. He was a really cool dude, though. Then the next part is actually what's called a penetration test. They try to hack you. Now, this is the U.S. government unleashing on you, so they've got a 97% success rate. They have not completed that part yet because we're in the queue like every other utility in the United States. I got an update last week. They're still in the queue. They use Booz Allen Hamilton, which you guys have probably seen on PBS, like everything's got Booz Allen Hamilton associated with it. But we've done the first part of the audit. So they came in and looked at our systems. They gave me basically a framework of the documentation that we needed to fill out, and I'm working on that documentation. And they actually did a preliminary look at all of our systems and made some suggestions. He actually said that there's only, I'm going to be intentionally vague on this because I'm not going to give the keys to the kingdom. It's kind of like I'm not going to tell you where the key is hidden that gets in the back door. Come on, Josh. They said that they had only been to one place that had as much security and cybersecurity infrastructure in place as we do. So that's cool, but they did make some suggestions. So some of the suggestions were just better end-user training. You can ask these guys, my end-user training on email is like, if you ever see anything that you're fishy, that you think is fishy, call Josh, call Daniel, we'll come look at it, don't click on it, or I may cut your fingers off. So that's, you can ask them, it's true. So that's been that in the past. So we've actually signed up for a service now that actually tries to fish our users, and we're well ahead of the curve. So apparently my threats worked. One of the other things that they actually wanted us to do was more network segmentation. So basically, we've got certain systems that were already segmented. This computer can't talk to this computer. This system can't talk to this system. They want us to segment further. The industry standard says segment further. So for an example, in this case, your printers that are network printers, they don't want on the same network as the computers that are talking to them. So in order to do that, we've actually had to order some more hardware, which 16-week lead time, that's kind of fun.
We've actually segmented some of our.
We got some
of our
segmentation
network,
done, and we had more segmentation.
but we're also, there's a certain part of our network that's not even connected to the internet, is that?
That is correct.
Yeah.
We're not going to go any more details on that, Dave.
No, that's just,
That is called an air gap network.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk about that anymore.
yeah.
Y'all can guess what it is. So that's kind of where we are with it right now. Like I said, it's honestly just a lot of paperwork we've got to do that we're deficient at, and then once we get that done, I can call these people back and have them come in and do it again. So I'm really anxious about the part where they actually hack us, because that's going to be fun. But I've got a weird version of fun.
So with that, any questions of Josh and where we're at? So this is really, like Josh said, it started with auditors, financial auditors, and then the board picked up on it, last year sometime or early this year. And we set this initiative in place. And as mentioned, he was looking at a lot of different contractors that might be able to come in and do this, and then all of a sudden the Homeland Security showed up on the radar, and we're offering these services for nothing, and it really worked out great. Because I think it's also we're going to get a better result by working with Homeland Security.
So one interesting thing when you deal with these companies, typically if you do an audit, they will not tell you how to fix stuff or give you suggestions on how to fix it. Homeland Security doesn't really, they don't care about the audit, they just care that nothing happens to you.
Yeah.
So they're willing to work with you, and they'll tell you what you need to do. So that's really cool.
Okay, if there's no other questions, we'll move on. Thanks, Josh.
Yeah, thank you, Josh, for that information. Hopefully you won't have to cut anybody's fingers off.
If any of y'all got any questions about any of that or want to know further details, I'm not going to say them on camera, but just holler at me tomorrow, and I'll be more than happy to talk to you about it.
Next item is the number 6, any new business or old business. We have a few items on there.
Yep, so I've got just upcoming agenda items. In next October's talking about financial audit will be the financial audit presentation at the October meeting. So that meeting will be a little bit longer. Coming up in December, we'll have the biannual account write-off. So that's where we just present to the board the accounts that we're sending to collections, basically, and writing them off. Also in December will be the review of the payroll budget, and also with that, the flex spending, which is how we pay for our benefits. That's just something that we'll be rolling those two items together, the flex spending and the proposed payroll budget for the calendar year 2023. Any questions on any of those items? And then just a reminder I had on here that the November board meeting is going to be November 29th, which I think is actually the 5th Tuesday in November. Just so it's the Tuesday after the Thanksgiving holiday. And then not too long after that, the December board meeting will be December 20th, which is the 3rd Tuesday in December. And that's where we'll be, looking at the payroll budget and those other items. So that's about all I have. Anything else under new old business or questions?
Okay. No other questions or discussion at this time? Okay, we'll move on. At this time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion by Witcher,
Second.
second by Jones. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. Meeting is adjourned.